Hey, we're back. All right. Sorry about that. So we'll delete that first video off the wall. That was a little confusing. Apparently the Wi-Fi decided it didn't want to work anymore. So now I've got trusty old Ethernet. So we're back talking about why we share our data and what we can do with that data once we share it. So the first thing to know is whatever data platform you're using, you got to know how to actually get the data from one device to another, from one driver to another, so you can collaborate and use that information. So we were going into depth with the Apex Pro app about how to share data. Real simple. And taking the interface aspect out of the equation is super important. Just for data from all kind of ends of the equation, right? It's very important to know the interface well enough that it's not a stumbling block in your learning process. So we're going through how we get to the data page in the app, and then how we actually share either over AirDrop or through Gmail, something else like that. So the way we're doing that is going from the home screen of the Apex app into the data tab, which we see represented by the squiggly line right there in the middle. So this is our data review screen. You can select your session, which is defined by the number of run that it is and the time it was recorded while you're at the track. So if I want to share with another driver, say they have some laps recorded at Roebling Road, they want to see my lap times, my data, be able to compare and overlay our laps, I'm going to simply swipe from right to left. All right, that's going to give me three options, and that's just a short, easy swipe. And that's going to show me share, export, and delete. Delete obviously gets rid of the session. Export formats it as a CSV file. Now the CSV can be used for a variety of different things. Normally what we use it for is Track Attack, the Track Attack software. You can actually overlay Apex data with video and with some other metrics there. That's useful. But what we're looking at today is the share feature. So if we tap share, watch what happens. We're gonna hit share, and then we're gonna get this screen right here where we're going to select how we share it. Now, AirDrop is important to know how that works. AirDrop is from, an iPhone to another iPhone, an iPhone to a Mac computer, like the one we're using here, or an iPad. Any Apple device can AirDrop, and you don't actually have to have Wi-Fi to AirDrop. So to AirDrop, we got to make sure that our AirDrop receiving is on in order to receive a file from another device that wants to share with us. If you don't know how to do this already, this is really important because you can share videos and pictures, anything that you record that's saved on your phone, you can share with AirDrop. So we're going to swipe up from the bottom, which is going to give us kind of our master screen here, our master settings screen that we can get on the fly anywhere. And to enable AirDrop, we're going to kind of hotkey, I forget what Apple calls it, but it's like a hard touch. I'm going to press and hold the center of the top left square, and that's going to give us the AirDrop, Bluetooth settings, airplane mode setting, all that kind of stuff. So now when I tap AirDrop right here, I'm going to get options to turn receiving off, to allow receiving from contacts only, or to allow from everyone, which is any other user in the area. Now I'm usually going to select everyone because I want to walk around the paddock and share my data with anybody that'll have it, so I can show them not only that I'm faster than them, but how I'm faster than them. I'm just kidding, but sometimes that's helpful too. So we'll go back now. Now my AirDrop's on everyone. If there are any other Apple devices right now, I don't know that there are, it might pick up the computer, but you just wait and they'll pop up right here. If they're in your contacts, you'll see their name and their face. You just tap it and that file will actually automatically import. Even if they don't have the app, it'll actually prompt them to download the app, and they can download the app and the data will be imported directly into their app. And you'll actually have all the functionality of the data that you would get as if you had recorded it. So if we look at this Roebling Road session, it's a 13 lap session, you're going to get the same exact data, even if you didn't record it. So someone can share it with you. Say you have an Apex Pro unit and you're able to record data, but one of your friends, your coaching client, your student, whoever doesn't, they can download the app for free, and then you can share this with them just like they recorded it. They'll have access to the same exact information, be able to do everything that you're able to do with post-session review, which we'll do more about in Motorsports Monday. Be able to go through and look at your speed trace, look at your longitudinal G-trace, do all the different things that you can do with Apex Pro post-session review. All right, now if we're on that data, to the way we overlay, the reason we share is so that we can overlay. So it's good to know how to do that. So if I'm on the shared session here, or really any session, we're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and tap add another session. And that's where we can add any other session recorded at that track. So now I can add any other session from Roebling Road Raceway. All right, so that's a real simple data sharing process. That's how you go through kind of the overlay process, which is what pro racers of all levels use. Hey, James, welcome. Use to share data is that data overlay. Particularly with Apex, speed trace overlay is super helpful. 10 Hz GPS, high resolution, and also being able to look at comparing Apex scores, comparing the difference in red and green lights from a pro driver to a more novice driver will expose a lot of things. You might not even need brake pressure, throttle position if you're able to properly use the Apex Grip model lights. So just a couple of things there. That's how we share data. That's how we get data on our platform from one user to another. We can also share it through email. So if you're not at the track with the person that you're sharing with, same thing, swipe right to left, tap share. And then you can use Apple Mail or Gmail. You can Snapchat it to them. I mean, come on, it's the 21st century, right? You can Slack it, you can save it to your Dropbox. And it's important to know this file is formatted as an Apex data file, so all you can do with it is import it into the Apex app on another device. But this is a great way if you have an iPad at home that you have the app on. You can send your data to the iPad and then you can review it when you get home on a bigger screen. So that's really popular. Now what will happen when you tap, so Gmail is the email browser I use, it's going to automatically populate the email with the data file. And it's going to say, check out this data from Apex Pro. That's kind of the stock text. I usually change that to say, hey, data from Roebling Road, whatever you want to include information about it. And you just type, in the email that you want to send it to. Pretty simple. So that's really nice. There's nothing more complex than that to share data with one another. That's really easy. And again, that's just on the data screen, right from the home screen, right in the middle there. Really easy. So we kind of covered why we share data. There's a lot of reasons why people share data, but primarily it's to have some objective performance information about another driver that you can use as a benchmark to compare yourself to. Something that I learned a long time ago that a lot of people can tell you, not a long time ago, a couple years ago, feels like a long time ago, that you can learn a lot from a driver that's actually slower than you. Not substantially slower necessarily, you don't want to learn bad habits, but from a driver that just doesn't have the same ability to drive the car the same lap time as you, doesn't mean you can't learn something from them. A lot of times you're able to actually find areas that you're underperforming where they're actually making up more time, but you're just faster in certain parts of the track that ends up giving you a faster lap time. So that's really important to have that objectivity and that sense of, if you have the attitude, I can learn something from anybody, that's really helpful. So even a driver that's slower than you, if you don't have the ability, if you're kind of thinking, I need to find a guy that's faster that can be a benchmark, you can't always just go out and do what another driver's doing. You have to learn it on your own terms. So a lot of times learning something from a slower driver is a little humbling. You can realize, okay, there's a lot there that I can learn, and it's probably has nothing to do with bravado or just braking later, right? A lot of times it's just a little more finesse, or it's braking earlier or lighter, right? And getting your platform more stable to enter the corner and roll more speed. That's pretty common. So don't discount a slower driver. Definitely share data with just about anybody, right? It's really helpful. So that's kind of why we share data. How we share data is real simple. Again, if we pull up the app, we'll do this one more time just to make sure everybody knows what's going on. We're going to tap the data circle right there, and then you can easily swipe your session right to left, share, export, or delete, tapping share. I like to share at AirDrop if I'm in close proximity with someone, or email. Real simple. Just play around with it, share it to yourself, just to kind of learn that interface. So when you get to the track, it's really easy to do. That takes away the interface aspect of it. Now, actually reviewing the data, what we want to look for when we share data is pretty simple, obviously, kind of the trends, right? All we're using data for is kind of as a way to frame decisions. So we want to make decisions based on data. So even a slower driver, right? You can make decisions from that data. I primarily navigate from the speed trace first and kind of work my way out of that. And then I look a lot at the Apex Light replay and find maybe the 3 corners on the track where I'm the slowest, or I'm underutilizing the grip the most. For me, data review is about keeping it simple. I'm not a super analytical person. I want it to be John, welcome. Winners use Apex. Yes, sir. I want to keep it nice and simple. So 3 things max, 3 things is kind of the rule I tell myself. Either 3 places on the track or 3 adjustments I want to make to my driving. And a lot of times I like to have a macro theme when I'm reviewing my data. Hey, it looks like I'm overslowing everywhere, right? A lot of times that's a macro thing. I tend to use the brake too much everywhere on the track. We can easily see that when we do a speed trace with another driver that's a similar or faster speed, right? You can really see that. That's what we use data sharing for. The big, most important thing, and what I really want to get to now that we know why and how we share data, is the attitude that we have to have about sharing data. You got to go into it with the attitude of, I have something to learn. The best way to get faster is to look at yourself first, right? And this is just probably applies to a lot of things, but being able to say, hey, I'm probably not as fast as I think I can be is the first step to actually, getting faster, just have that attitude. And that's something you can read about a lot, but it's really only something that you can develop and have in practice, because we're all, especially kind of, all men think they can drive. It's kind of a standard thing. Anyone at the track, we think we can drive, and to some extent we can. So we have to really find ways to be super honest with ourselves about our driving and be willing to try different things. And most people that have already ventured into data already are. And so then it's not necessarily just about initially having that mindset, but about having it as you continue to go further and further and really try to find kind of the ultimate truth and help data make decisions for you. So we'll talk a little bit more about the interpretation side of data probably next week. We might do an additional live video this Friday. We're going to be racing at Atlanta Motorsports Park. I'm going to be racing with a couple of friends over there, so I'm really looking forward to joining, I guess, Hong North Racing in the Mazda MX-3. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be there on site. Discovery Parts is going to be selling Apex Pro units. We're going to be doing rentals and helping drivers go faster at the track. That's what it's all about. So we'll be doing a lot of data review then. And then we're going to kind of try and replicate the data review process for the Facebook Live format, so you guys can see, when maybe as an example, when I'm using my data, I can have some data that I'll record this weekend during the race, and I can speak a little bit to the process I go through for reviewing data. And it's important to know, like I said before, I'm not an analytically minded person. I don't get a lot out of just looking at the numbers. So I like to use data from a more macro perspective to identify trends, and basically just to cut down the amount of time that I have to spend identifying what I'm doing or thinking about it. And a lot of times we can use data to verify suspicions or ask questions from a coaching perspective. So we'll launch into more of like using data to coach yourself, self-coaching on the track. Really, really helpful, especially once you kind of reach a plateau, and how data can help you overcome that. So we'll do that as well. I also did an interview with Ross Bentley a couple months ago about the psychology of data. And if that's a topic you're interested in, get on the Apex Pro users group and let us know. We can do more psychology of data talks. I'm happy to take someone's data that wants to share it with us and maybe dive into it. It's really interesting how much you can gain from just looking at speed trace and other stuff like that. So the main things I want to discuss today, again, were why do we share data? We share data because it helps make us faster, right? It helps expose areas where we may be underperforming, even if we're getting that data from a slightly slower driver or even a substantially slower driver. As an example, I've had that happen several times where I've shared data and I was actually really fast in the fast corners, and the driver that I got data from was really fast in the slow corners. And so much so that our lap times were I only was a couple tenths of a second, maybe half a second faster at the most. But because that driver was slower in the fast corners for whatever reason on that track, it ended up being a big enough difference that I was still faster. But I learned a lot about those slow speed corners, and I learned that I was overcooking the entry almost when I was trying to brake too late for corners that just whatever reason for the platform. I was racing my Honda Accord. The platform that weekend, braking late wasn't really the answer. I had to adjust my philosophy and the way I actually attacked the brake pedal. So on that car, we had this interesting phenomenon of really like what you would call ABS. It's an ABS problem, but it causes the pedal to freeze. So basically you hit the brake pedal really firmly. And because the sampling rate on the factory ABS was not designed for the amount of grip that we had with the tire, the ABS would see a massive wheel speed delta, because it's measuring wheel speed. So it's seeing the rate at which the wheels are turning. And so it saw the wheels basically stop. It went past the rate at which it triggers the ABS, and the ABS would kick in, and it basically would cause the ABS to kick in, which would delay the amount of input you could put in. And so you would end up braking into the ABS. You'd have to get back out of it and get back into it. So braking too firmly worked against you. And we didn't know that until we looked at the data. So the way I was attacking the slow speed threshold braking corners, which is where I was losing the most time, was brake late and hard, right? Carry, Vmax for as long as possible, which would make sense. But what I had to tell myself and what I learned from the data was to back up my braking point just a tiny bit and be a little bit smoother on my initial input so that I didn't shock the ABS system into thinking that it was getting locked up. And once I did that, the whole corner started coming together, because now I was actually had more brake efficiency, and it ended up stabilizing the platform a little bit better, that I wasn't pinning as much weight over the nose of the car. And I didn't realize I was doing that. And until I looked at basically just a speed trace from the other driver, I didn't know that. I had a lot of courage in the fast corners. I was stupid and young, still am to some extent. More definitely still young, also definitely stupid. So I was really able to carry a lot of speed just because I believed in myself through the fast corners, and that ended up netting a good amount of lap time difference. But I didn't realize how much I was leaving on the table just by basically not using the brake pedal the right way. But a driver that was naturally slower and a little more tentative actually braked a lot more efficiently with that platform. And there's no other way. We didn't even have brake pressure. I mean, this was a speed trace. This was all stuff Apex Pro can show us. We were just able to see how much more speed that driver was able to roll into the corner, and we were able to deduce based on longitudinal G's that it was something to do with braking. So that's what you can do with inertial data. It's really, really powerful. You don't have to have everything on your car instrumented in order to get that kind of information. You just have to spend a little more time with the simpler stuff to really learn what you're seeing. So we'll go into more information on that. I don't want to jump too far down into the rabbit hole. I know that's a really in-depth story, but the whole thing is just meant to illustrate you can learn a lot from a slower driver's data. A lot of times because, and that starts from knowing yourself as a driver. Look at what you do well as a driver. Look at what, the corners placed on the track, that you do really well. If you're a finesse driver, you're really comfortable when the car is at slower speed. Maybe you've done a lot of autocross and chucking the car in at slow speed, getting back to power super early, squaring off a corner. You're really comfortable with that. But you're not as comfortable with the finesse it takes, if you're coming from autocross to track day driving or to racing, and faster corners, because you have more energy in the chassis. We don't use the pedals as aggressively. We don't pin the weight over the nose and trail brake into a really fast corner, right? It's more about stabilizing the chassis and using the right amount of compression on the front springs to roll the car into the corner. And that's something we can talk more about when we look at Apex data. But just remember, you can learn something from a slower driver. That's a really big experience that I had. And before we go, we've got new people, so I'll definitely use this as another point to illustrate how you share data. So you're going to tap the data button right here, and then to share, just swipe it from right to left and tap share. And that's how you can show all your friends at the track you're faster than them empirically. Got to have that information. You can just share, pop up with AirDrop or on email. Now this video is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, so if you don't already subscribe to our YouTube channel, you definitely should. So you'll get a notification so you can go back if you missed the first part and you want to hear more about what this crazy guy up here is talking about with data. It'll talk to you about that. And then I think our program is going to be for next week, probably talk a little bit more about the actual interpretation of data, self-coaching questions, things that we can do looking at our own data to understand how we can be better drivers. Maybe even without sharing data from other drivers. But if you're interested in suggesting a topic or you want to share your data for us to review on Facebook Live, post it in the Apex Pro users group. If you're not already a member, you should join. It's awesome. And we'll definitely use that to, let's see, I think I saw a comment on here. We'll definitely use that platform to share stuff. Hey, Jake, I know you were using the unit this weekend at Road America. How'd Road America go with Champ Car? I'm racing with Champ Car this weekend, by the way, if you weren't on here earlier, Jake, so that should be a lot of fun. I'll have a lot to talk about next week after being at the track all weekend at Atlanta Motorsports Park. All right, I'm going to try and hold myself to a 20-minute live video so that if you go back and watch this, it's not super, super long. Feel free to ask questions on this thread and comment And I know this was a super basic topic, but I just want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with how we share data on our platform so the interface isn't a problem. Because we've really seen when we're at the track and we have drivers interacting with each other using the product, when they start to learn that airdrop method of sharing, it really creates a lot of conversations about driving and using your data to improve. And that is great to see, because it's not just, you're not just out there bench racing anymore. You're now bench racing with facts. Then you put the data away later when you crack the beers open, and then you can bench race and talk about who passed who and who's faster and all that kind of stuff. But if you really want to go fast, you got to look yourself in the mirror and go, what am I doing? And how can I improve? And that's what we're here to do. All right, I appreciate the time, everybody. I'm going to post this on our YouTube page again. And make sure to join us next week. We'll be broadcasting at 4 or 5 o'clock Central Time. We might vary that a little bit. Seems to be pretty favorable for a lot of folks. And this will be on our Facebook wall as well, so you can check it out there. All right, I'm going to end the video. Thanks for your time, everybody. Enjoy your week.